Thank you so much. As Zach insinuated, may I just say Shechianu, and hopefully do it without croaking. Lieutenant Hadar Golden, killed in action by Hamas during Operation Protective Edge 11 years ago, and abducted to Gaza, is finally home. A relief that is added to the relief that we had after the 20 living hostages in the hands of Hamas have also returned home. Those of you who know me know that alongside being an Israeli and a Zionist, I'm also a diaspora Jew. Always, always proud of that and my family history, and therefore I beg you to relate and to consider my following remarks, taking all of that as background. My dear friends, thank you for inviting me to speak at the 10th Z3 annual conference. It is a privilege to celebrate this important milestone anniversary with you. I'd like, of course, to thank the organizers, first and foremost, OFJCC CEO Zach Bodner. Thank you. Z3 founding director Amitai Freiman, and of course, the amazing Ronit Jacobs. And she told me to say that. But it is really with deep gratitude that I stand here with, for their long-standing partnership with the Consulate of Israel to the Pacific Northwest, and continuing this tradition of inviting Consuls General of Israel to speak to this amazing gathering. My friends, we gather today in a moment still heavy with sorrow, of course, yet alive with steadfast resolve and hope for a way out of the darkness that has engulfed us for more than 2 years. The shadow of October 7th, a day when horror swept Israel, and the aftermath of which rapidly swept through Jewish communities everywhere, continues to shape our collective experience. It reminds us that open dialogue and close partnership between Israel and the diaspora are not optional, but essential. The atrocities of October 7th did not merely target the Jewish state. They became a license for a broader campaign against Jews everywhere. What began as a savage attack by Palestinian terrorist organization and others against our homeland quickly became an assault on our people wherever they gather to pray, to study, to live. That violence triggered a global surge of anti-Semitism. At the same time, a targeted campaign to minimize, deny, and even trivialize the atrocities committed against Jews in Israel gave legitimacy to the demonization of the state of Israel itself, and in doing so, and eroded the confidence, the security, and even the sense of freedom and equality of Jews around the world. The brutal torture, barbaric sexual assault, and gruesome murder of the terrorists of Hamas and their Palestinian accomplices inflicted deep trauma on the Jewish people. Yet that pain was subsequently amplified by the shocking spectacle of feral jubilation and glorification of these horrific acts against Jews. Particularly painful was that some of those voices came from individuals and groups that Jewish communities, especially in this part of the world, have long considered and supported as allies. This was perhaps the clearest indication to date that while a multiplicity of groups are celebrated as they assert their own identity, only Jews are expected, or rather required, to shed theirs in order to be included. To paraphrase Groucho Marx, Jews, for some reason, keep insisting on joining a club that wouldn't have them as members. This tragedy served as a universal reckoning that reminded us of a familiar, painful truth. The imperative of Jewish safety knows no borders. The wave of anti-Jewish abuse that followed the Simchat Torah massacre proved this was never about just one country in the Middle East. It exposed how fragile Jewish life can be without the protection of sovereignty and the strength of unity. My friends, Zionism was conceived as a bulwark against precisely this vulnerability, a movement for Jewish self-determination, security, equality, and dignity, an act of defiant survival by a people who refuse to be forever wandering. The true decolonization endeavor, the real land-back movement. It sought not only safety, but renewal, a chance to rebuild an ancestral homeland rooted in justice, creativity, and moral responsibility. The only place where Jews could live freely as a people bound by shared memory, values, and vision for generations to come. A place that would serve as home and a source of belonging for every Jewish person wherever they are in the world. Yet since October 7th, we saw concerted, more sophisticated, more insidious campaigns to single out Israel as uniquely evil and to use this as a wedge between it and Jewish communities. The demonization of Israel is no longer just an attempt to undermine its legitimate right to prosecute a war, or worse, to seek to exclude it from its equal place in the family of nations. It has become a campaign to erode Jewish solidarity, to pressure Jews to disavow their connection with their Jewish homeland, to fracture this bond throughout the diaspora and to sow division within our community. And we should not let that happen. Never before has the demand been so clear. Jews must renounce their identity or face marginalization, a tactic that would be unthinkable if directed at any other people. Unfortunately, this rhetoric and this tactic just won an election in New York City, using the language of justice to cloak an old anti-Semitic hatred. It has made Jews across the U.S. feel fear and foreboding, to quote a recent op-ed from Conference of Presidents CEO William Daroff. In the shadow of history's recurring patterns, and on the 87th anniversary of Kristallnacht, one wonders, does this election not feel like the convergence of two stark warnings, the haunting chorus of two lamentations? Amos Elon's sobering chronicle German-Jewish tragedy in the pity of it all, and Philip Roth's cautionary nightmare in the plot against America about how a populist movement fueled by demagoguery can threaten pluralism and unleash all prejudices under democratic banners. Is New York in 2025 a mirror of that earlier moment, nearly a century ago, when Jews trusted too soon that integration and enlightenment meant safety, that social acceptance was lasting, that brilliance in art and science could secure belonging and shield them from harm? Are we witnessing, as Roth forewarned, relearning what was never truly unlearned, that acceptance is always contingent, always fragile, that safety is a delicate illusion, and that with shifting political tides, vulnerability persists despite progress? My friends, Z3 was inspired by the desire to reimagine our peoplehood and strengthen our bonds through the exploration of Zionism and Jewish life today. A space of dialogue where we can together shape and take ownership of our own identity and shared future with courage and purpose. Well, there's never been a better time for that. In the aftermath of October 7th, our call from this hall should be clearer than ever. Stand united, proud, visible, and resolute. Be vigilant and organized. Defend the Jewish state. Defend the Jewish people everywhere. Reject the false narratives that seek to divide us. Recognize that anti-Zionism today serves as a not-so-shiny and surely not respectable veneer under which anti-Semitism hides. Know that to undermine Israel is to undermine Jewish existence and unity. Know that cowering or hiding can only encourage hatred to grow. Know that acts of contrition, apology, or distancing will never win the true, sustained solidarity of groups considered allies. As we mourn the greatest catastrophe that befell our people since the Shoah, as we remember, let us also renew our commitment to each other. Zionism is our promise. The promise that was born in the 19th century as a never at all, but became a lived reality only after never again. Together, steadfast and united, we will ensure that the light of Jewish life never dims. It will continue to burn, shining brighter than ever with our resilience and our unbreakable spirit. Am Yisrael Chai, and thank you very much.